Good evening. My name is John Chory. I'm chairman of the Harwich Finance Committee, and this is an open public meeting, Thursday, February 18th, 2021. And I have to read a little statement from the governor before we can start our meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020, open suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A-18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Harwich Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance or members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Number one, a reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting may do so by dialing in, which are the instructions are included, or by remote participation as contained in the agenda. Despite our best efforts, we are unable to provide for real-time access, and will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to do a roll call vote to do that. All those in favor of calling the meeting to order, please say aye. I'll call people's names individually, and then you can respond. Dan?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And Angela?
Aye.
John Chory is also present. Five members present. Okay, introduction, welcome, and guest public. Well, the first thing I'd like to do is introduce Mary Anderson to the group here. This is her first meeting as a participant on the Harwich Finance Committee, and she's welcomed. I'm glad she joined, but hopefully we'll see how long she stays on the committee here. But well, that's be determined by not me, by other folks. So welcome, Mary. And
thank you very much.
And there's a lot of information, as you've probably seen by the amount of emails I've been sending out to people. A lot of documentation to read. And tonight's meeting, the intent is basically just to go over the town's budgets and school budgets individually, just briefly, just at a, I hate the term, but 30,000-foot level. You know, just give an idea of what each budget is looking for, some general discussion, and by all means, Mary, please ask questions, and anyone else on the board. The schools, give a brief look at their budgets. Like to go over the town calendar that Joe, our town administrator, Powers, our town administrator, has out there for deadlines on what he has to do to meet town charter requirements. And then also go through the CPC, Community Preservation Commission's articles. They have voted on their articles, and they can briefly tell you how that's turned out in the votes. And then the idea is, as we're discussing the meeting, the budgets, you know, see which ones we want to bring in for further discussion, and on the articles, EPC articles, see which individual people we want to bring in there for further discussion. There are no town warrants that I could get a hold of today, so we will not be speaking about any of those in this meeting. And I don't know who caller CC is or caller A, but at the appropriate time.
Mark Amaris and Carol Coppola.
Oh, who's the A?
Mark Amaris.
Oh, Mark. Okay, I just see an A here. And
Hi, John.
Oh, hey, Mark. Well, I didn't realize that was you. Well, we can maybe adjust. Are you present? Then obviously you're present. So there'll be 6 meetings of the Finance Committee. And hi, Carol. Thanks for joining us.
John, you have the strategic plan on the agenda also.
Oh, excuse me. You're right, Dan. And the minutes too. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I would have caught that as we maneuvered down through the agenda items here. But thank you, Dan. Okay, so that's the article numbers 1 and 2. Number 3, I'd like to approve the meeting minutes from December 15th, 2020. Do I hear someone make a motion in a second, please?
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of December 15th, 2020.
Second.
Okay. The meeting has been, motion's been made and seconds been made. Are there any discussion or comments on the minutes before we take a vote on them? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion that we vote approval of the minutes. I would like to make a motion.
I thought I just did.
That's been moved.
That was just open for discussion. This is the actual vote on the minutes now.
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of December 15th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote on acceptance of minutes. Dan?
Aye.
Brian?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't there.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Angelo?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Mary, I guess you weren't there either, so, and I approve too. So that's the minutes, four approved and 2 abstentions. Okay, moving down to the topic 4, new business. The first one on the agenda is the strategic plan. And this was a plan that we briefly talked about in December. I'm calling it strategic plan, but it could also be called mission statements or goals and objectives. I like strategic plan better. It kind of encompasses both of them. And it's, as you can, let me scroll down here. Sorry about that. Draft document. Just scoot a little bit there. It's there. It's in the packet for the general public, and for folks on committee members have seen it. It's something that Dan Torak put the majority of it together with some input from myself and some from other members. And I thought I might be able to vote on it tonight. But after reading it again today, talking to a couple members and a member of the general public who saw it on our website and called me and had some comments, which I think are very valid comments, I'd like to, we can go through it right now. And when we get to those pieces of comments, I can tell you what I'd like to just adjust. It's mostly wordsmithing on and what words could mean or not mean. And I'd just like to remove those words that might be questionable and insert words that that's kind of generic in nature. So if people have any comments that we could just like go down through it. I'm not going to read it word for word, but if folks have any comment, we'll take it, I guess, maybe a paragraph or section by section. Does anyone have any comment or additions or subtractions from on who we are in the document? And I'm not going to do a roll call vote, but if you have a thought, just sing out and discuss that thought. Down to the mission statement portion here. A couple, just like I say, wordsmithing and grammatical things. And I can get with you, Dan, on this, and we can correct it, and then in the next meeting, bring it back for a vote.
Okay.
As we read through it, it says the primary responsibility of the committee is to review spending plans, analyze the spending, and I want to scratch out the consequences. So it's just spending consequences. And present recommendation. Pardon?
Get rid of that apostrophe too if you're getting grammatically correct here.
Oh, well, thank you, Mary. Let me cross that out. Dan, are you taking notes on this?
Yeah, the apostrophe, okay. Like the apostrophe S?
Yeah.
Take that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Take it out. Yeah,
And present recommendations to town meeting on the town budget and other matters being considered that require a vote by the town people. The committee also provides oversight with town financial operations. I'd like to remove the word oversight completely and just provide recommendations. I think oversight denotes some different things for different folks, so I'll just remove it and just put in the word recommendations with town financial operation.
recommendations with town fiscal operations.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And if we're looking at grammatical issues, the townspeople should be S apostrophe.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Okay, not apostrophe. Yes. Okay, great. I'm glad
Yeah.
we have some English majors in the group here. Next one is some of the committee's activities. I didn't have any issues with any of that stuff there. And again, if folks look at this, tonight and have some other questions or concerns, you can, send it to me or Dan. It won't constitute a meeting by that.
Yeah, if you folks see any activities that you would like to see added, let me know. Because this is basically what I came up with, but there might be some more things that we might want to highlight there.
Next section is our goals. Goal 1, I'd like to remove the word study and just and put in something like, working with town administrator and selectmen, make recommendations to enhance revenue streams. This is these goals and 1 and 2 are both strategic goals of our committee, but it's also to be worked in conjunction with selectmen and the town administrator. I don't want people to misunderstand that we're doing things independently or not in conjunction with the selectmen or town administrator, and that's nothing of the sort. We're working together as a team, and I just want to state that as a team. And on the key objectives and objects, activities, as I don't see anything there that was I'd like to change. And then on the second goal, the same thing, working with town administrator and selectmen, make recommendations. And those are underneath those, the 3 items there.
How did you see that, John?
Working
On goal 2?
on goal 2, yes. Working with the town administrator and selectmen.
What if we said something towards the end of that, by working with town administrator and board of selectmen?
Yeah, that'd be fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else to add to that? Like I say, if you think of anything, get it to Dan. Get it to Dan, and Dan will get it to me. And you can, hey, welcome, Tom. I see you on down there. Okay, so if no other questions.
John, I'll just mention it because I think this is your intent, is that this would be published on our website under the Finance Committee's website.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it'll be in the sunshine, so to speak, for people to look at.
Oh, very much so, Dan. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. That's the whole idea is to get this posted there so folks know what is so they know what our objectives and goals are. And then to that point, though, Dan, that's a good, thanks for bringing that up, is under the key strategies and objectives, we have a couple, I'll pick on one, working with the selectmen and town administrator again, see what we can do towards the collecting of property taxes due to the town. And not only would I like to post that as a separate goal and objective, but actually list there what is due the town as far as monies. And I don't want to state a number right now, but until I verify it with the town administrator, which I said I would do. But it's in the multiple millions of dollars of uncollected property taxes. And do that for each of the key objectives and strategies. So the townspeople know what we're working on and what's being done towards that goal and objective. There's nothing on that segment. We can move into the budget section here now. This is a cover letter that Joe, our town administrator, sent the selectmen on the budget. And this is the what I guess is affectionately called as the recap sheet. And if I misspeak here, Carol, please speak up. And what I wanted to do on the town operating budget, as on all the budgets that we'll be talking about tonight, we're not really going to get into great depth on the budgets because all these budgets are still in draft form. None of them have been approved. None of them have been voted on by any of the committees or selectmen. The selectmen did see this particular cover sheet and attached detail on Monday night, or Tuesday night, excuse me. And again, they're going to look at it on Tuesday. Again, and towards the end of this operating budget and the capital budget is the timeline. They will be presenting, the selectmen will be turning over an approved budget to us. I believe it's February 20. They'll submit, according to the timeline, which we'll be taking a look at a little bit shortly, is the 22nd of providing that budget. I'm guessing that it's an approved budget at that time. And then we can talk more because these numbers are still very fluent and they are subject to change. On the town operating budget, Joe, Town Administrator Joe Powers, he presented what I'm just going to call a snapshot, not a great deal of direction of what the budget selectmen gave Joe, but they basically gave Joe 3 items as a directive to developing the FY 2022 budget. The first one was to require a budget that is at most 2% higher than FY 21. And Joe produced the result of that directive from the selectmen. His total town budget show an increase of just 0.6%. So he met that goal and objective. The second goal from the selectmen or message was to deliver a level funded budget. And Joe, as a result of that, is most of the majority of the individual town budgets, department budgets are level funded. And you can see that in the accompanying detail. And then the last directive was to limit the use of debt exclusions. And the capital plan, which we'll talk about a little bit too, only has 2 debt exclusions in it. One is the fire ladder truck called a Quint, which is a combination pumper and ladder truck. It can do both. The ladder truck we have currently is very old. I think it's 34 years old. Does not act as a pumper. It only has a ladder on it. And the chief, Norm Clark, a couple of years ago, gave up buying a new pumper with the intent of buying a combination vehicle truck. And this is that truck, and that's at $1.1 million. And that will be a debt exclusion. The second debt exclusion is a normal debt exclusion that's on there every year is for $700,000 for Link Hooper for road maintenance, and that'll be a debt exclusion also. So Joe met all three budget directives and messages from the selectmen in presenting this operating budget. And as you can, again, this is just the recap sheet. You can see that the tax levy there. The tax levy is, as we know, is the taxes that are raised by property taxes and personal property. And then also new growth is part of that tax levy amount. As we go down, local receipts, which I think was a big concern of a lot of people during COVID, was receipts. Would they be down because of the less meals being sold, hotels being sold? But those look up about 4%. And then the other one's state aid from the cherry sheet, from the overlay surplus, which comes out of, from the assessor's office. And then underneath that line is, how those funds, how that $71 million is going to be used. And it's the state cherry sheet. They take it and they give it away right here, so to speak. And then this year, the overlay, the assessors are asking for an increase of $50,000. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning for that is, but I'm sure it sounds like they're expecting more folks to come in with property tax challenges, and they want extra money to meet those challenges. The net benefit there now is you're down to almost $70 million. There's the town operating budget that we spoke about before, coming in at just 0.6%. And then the other semi-fixed costs that are normally used for running the town is the debt service, retirement paid, responsible town retirement, the insurance company, OPED, which we didn't fund last year because of COVID and budget restrictions. This year they're funding it. Property liability and unemployment. Those are the fixed costs. The two other costs down there are Cape Cod Tech and Monomoy Regional District. I'll speak a little bit more in detail about those two budgets when we get to them later on. I'm expecting those numbers to actually come down from the school. In the school's budget, I'll talk about them, but I'm looking from what the schools, information I've received from the schools, is those are going to come in a little bit lower, which is good news there too. But again, those budgets haven't been voted on. So you have a town budget there of $71 million, $71,164,811, roughly 3.3% more than last year's budget. And again, this budget is just a temporary, a draft budget, hasn't been voted on by the selectmen. But I would anticipate it comes in pretty close to these numbers. If I could ask Carol, was that a pretty good recap, Carol? Anything more pertinent you might know, or?
I think that was perfect, John. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you, Carol. And
John?
Yeah, no. I'll open it for discussion now.
Oh, okay. John?
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
The Monomoy Regional School District budget, that's Harwich's share of the total budget, right?
Correct.
And because of the way the formula works, Harwich is bearing a larger portion of the school budget than it had in the prior year, which is obvious by the $1 million increase in its assessment. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, you're right, Dan. And we can talk to it more a little bit when we get to the school budget. But I'll just briefly mention it, but a lot of folks have probably been hearing or reading in the Chronicle. There's a lot of talk of inequities on those charges, and I'll get into the greater detail when we get to those budgets. But yes, that roughly represents 75% of the overall school budget is Harwich's assessment Chatham is a 25% assessment number. We'll get into that a little bit later on, and that's dictated by the IMA, the intermunicipal agreement that we signed with Chatham. I believe it's about 10 years old now. So it's a formula that they plug into, and it comes out the other end what our assessment is. And that's what we're tasked with paying. Anyone else have a question? What I'll do is I'll have a question on the recap sheet, whatever we want to call it.
I have a question.
Sure, Brian.
So I'd like to talk and Carol is here. I know she's got her microphone off, but I would like to know, Carol, relative to the real estate and personal property taxes, especially the local receipts, certain categories like excise tax, hotel and meals, beach recreation, youth, harbors and landings, golf. I wanted to know if these were budgeted off the actuals of this current year.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The estimated receipts you are inquiring for, correct?
Correct, for 2022. I wanted
Yeah.
to know where these numbers came from and whether or not they were based upon the actuals that you experienced in 2021. For example, excise.
I'm sorry. Sir, I'll let you finish.
Relative to things like excise tax and hotel meals and motel, I mean, those are right now, we all know they're very far down. So I'm wondering, are you using the current year as a basis, or are we just pulling another number out and it's kind of an in-between hope number?
So we are using the current year basis numbers. They came in extremely strong, especially in short-term rentals. So that's what we use to base our local receipts for, especially for short-term rentals and traditional rentals. So the state has been able to provide me with information on both of those. They separate them out, but I have to specifically request that on a quarterly basis. So for FY21, the town of Harwich received significant amount, more significant than we ever anticipated for short-term rentals. And so the estimated revenues are based on those receipts. However, I am always cautiously optimistic. So I make sure that I'm not overly, I guess I would tell you for every revenue stream, I make sure that I have not overly estimated any receipt whatsoever, which came forward for your group and will come forward to the Board of Selectmen next week and came forward on Monday evening. If you were in tune to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, the golf department really were, and this is a different topic altogether, but they were really opposed to my estimates for FY22. And so you'll see coming forward to the Board of Selectmen on Monday evening that those estimates have been increased $215,000, and in which I concur. I am just a super conservative person, and so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question, Carol, because I tend to be very conservative as well. And so like I look at the hotel, motel and meals, and with not knowing what the actuals are, I look at 671 as the budget number and a jump to 915, a 36% jump with not knowing where we will be this summer, I was just, those numbers concern me. The excise tax as well concerns me. So I wanted to get a sense of where we don't have the year end. So I was curious as to whether or not you were actually budgeting from the actuals.
So just so the committee knows that we've already, as far as excise, motor vehicle excise tax, we've already surpassed the $2 million mark for FY21.
Great.
For FY22, I was super conservative as well, not thinking that, we would surpass that as well. But we have certainly surpassed, and so much more, the FY21 estimates on hotel motel. They've been super strong. So we're at, I wish I had the document before me, and I think it's in the other room. So if you want to give me a minute to get to it.
I just wanted to understand the methodology. I'm not trying to put your feet to the fire, Carol. But you understand, I come from a business background, owning my own company, so I loved budgeting off the actuals. I want to know what I really had, and I want a reasonable percentage for growth or for erosion based upon what the climate is bringing me.
I agree.
That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? What I'll do is, if no one has a question, I'll slowly go down through the operating budget. There's just a lot of numbers there. And like I said earlier, most of them are level funded. I mean, you're going to see little blips here and there in individual budgets, but the majority of them are level funded. I looked through them. I didn't see any real questions on, why is this, why is that? So, and then we'll move on to the capital budget.
Can I try a question before you move on,
Sure.
John?
Sure, Mary.
This is more an observation than a question. I was surprised when I saw all these numbers, because like Brian, I've got a long history of budgeting too.
Good.
When the directive was to bring it in no more than 3%, I assumed we were talking 3% over last year's actual, not over last year's budget. And in looking at a lot of the departments that came in flat, they're flat against last year's budget, but they're not flat against 2020's actual. I don't know about 2021's actual yet because it's not in there. Is that the normal way how we do it?
Carol, I'll bounce it to you.
So 2020 was, as we all know, 2020 was a different year. And 2021 as well. 2020 presented us and everyone with such challenging moments, and we froze spending. Honestly, we froze spending because we didn't know what revenue was going to be. The 2021 budget included contractual increases that were required because the town had entered into these agreements. So the town administrator's budget directive to departments was to level fund their budgets, and knowing that the 2021 budgets were only going to include contractual increases that maybe departments, not maybe, but that departments had entered into, and those in which there were 8 contracts. There's 8 union contracts in the town. And so those union contracts, in some of those union contracts included increases And so those were the only increases that were included in the budget, but the FY20 budget was largely frozen because of the pandemic. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have that I have not answered yet, because I'm not quite sure what your question might be. I'm sorry.
I was just surprised, and maybe it's just because I'm new at this game, but that the directive was against comparing 2022 budget to 2021, as opposed to the actual, excuse me. But if that's what it was, it's what it was.
And so I would say you are correct. You are correct. It was the 2021 versus the 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, welcome, Dale. I can see you right down there. So Dale's in sunny Florida, folks, so we feel bad for him, right? You know.
Thank you. Yep, I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt.
Welcome, Dale.
Thank you.
Like I said, we'll, if there's no other questions here on the recap, and again, it's we're going to be talking about these budgets. I just want people to remember that they're draft budgets. They're not been voted on yet, and it's just to try to give us. I don't expect them to change really all that much, so it's a good snapshot for us to take a look at. Put together any questions you have, and then when we have people come back before us, we can get into much more detail. So as we scroll down here, and I happen to have my TV on, looking at the same thing, and I can't make out a word on that TV screen. So I apologize to the general public out there. If you're trying to read these numbers, it's impossible. But they are available on our website, the town finance committee's website, along with all our names up there and email addresses on our names. If you have any questions, please email me, and I'll be happy to get the answers to them for you. Again, it's pretty much a lot more, as we look to the far right column, percentage change, you know, they're all relatively small changes. And there's, like I say, I really can't scroll down too much. I mean, there are some, like on the fire right here, I have no idea what that percentage increase is there, but that's things like that we can call in the fire department if we'd like to and ask them. Council on Aging, I really, again, didn't see anything tremendously out there. I'll speak to the two schools independently in a little bit. And so that's that budget thing. It's the town operating budget, or overall budget, but mostly the town operating budget. What we're going to get into now here, I'll squish it down so I can get it the whole page in here for the folks watching on the screen here, is there's two capital budgets. There's one for fiscal 2022, which is this coming year's budget, and then the 5-year plan, which we'll talk about also. As we go down through here, most of these are departments' requests for capital projects, capital expenses, and there's a column in there called funding source. It's the third column. It's pretty much in the middle. It's got the different colors on it. You know, FC means free cash. Grant obviously is a grant from somewhere. Operating budget is the dollar amount for that particular item is carried in the operating budget. And CPC is Conservation Preservation Commission. And those items are voted with that 3% tax that's levied against the property tax that goes into a Community Preservation Commission's budget. And people come before them requesting money for different projects. We'll go through those projects at the end of, it's it is the last budget we'll talk about. So that's what we go down through the individual departments. And if anyone has a particular question on the capital, the bottom line of the capital, and I'm quickly going to go down through the bottom here, is $7,502,846. That's down substantially from what they originally started off as. The original capital for this year was close to $20 million, if I remember correctly. The bulk of that being in wastewater expenditures. East Harwich, monies for DY, a shared treatment plant, and all those two big ticket items were pushed off until next year and then the following year. So this year, getting to the Selectmen's directives, they wanted to pare it down and have only 2 or minimal debt exclusions as possible, and there's only 2 on this plan for that. These are, some of the normal type stuff we see in here. I'm trying to see something. And like I said, some of these, most of these articles are being funded through free cash and through CPC funding here and through debt exclusions. So, I can.
It's your attention. You might want to mute your mic.
Who's that?
You take time to fundraise, and people that know you in town can understand that. So you got part of it here. Give the next one.
Carol, you might want to mute your microphone.
I can do that. I have the power here, Brian. So, I'll just briefly. I'll go through the categories here. Does anyone have any questions on administration as to what an individual article or request is? If so, just sing out. Cemetery Department is there. Channel 18, which I think is needed more than any department. All departments are needed, but I think these Zoom meetings are here to stay. So anything we can do to better facilitate getting the Zoom meetings out to the public and for public to participate in, I'm all for. And PEG accounts for Mary, or for folks that don't know what that means, that's on your cable bill that you get from Comcast. I think it's called public something. It's Comcast charges you a small percentage of your bill. That money comes back into the town, and that's what this PEG grant is. That's where that money's being. It's no direct tax, but it's kind of a secondary tax. But the artificial reef is Brooks. The only big one here is the Brooks Library. Apparently, a new library is needed there. And we can call any of these folks that you have a question on if we want more detail. I'm happy to get. Fire department, this is a big one here because this is where the quint is. That's that pumper ladder request. That's a combination truck. It's been pushed off, I think, at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. And we've got to make a decision on it. And the decision this year is to put it forward and to do it through a debt exclusion. And like I said, it's a combination truck. It's a pumper and a ladder. So when it arrives on scene, it can serve 2 purposes. Chatham has a quint in their fleet. The current one we have is, I think, 34 years old. It's in numerous repairs over the last couple of years. And the fire department has to get these trucks, certified every year for operation. So that's the big number there. Public Works, it's your normal stuff that Link has a schedule on vehicle replacement that he publishes, and I can send that out to folks if I hadn't. I can't remember what I sent out, but Link puts together usually 2-3 vehicles every year that he replaces, and these are those 3 vehicles right there that he's replacing, being funded through free cash. And those who know Link or his department up there, he's got a maintenance staff that is just second to none. I've visited it up there. They can do everything from a flat tire change to a complete engine rebuild and up there. They save this town many thousands of dollars on the maintenance work they do. And when Link says he needs a truck, that means that he needs a truck. That they've done everything they can to keep that truck running. Debt exclusion, that's $700,000. That's we get money back from the state every year, and that's roughly $700,000. And this is the matching portion of that from the town's thing. So Lake has about $1.4 million for road maintenance. And I would think that Lincoln will probably be one of the folks we call in to come and explain the budget. But it's a pretty good operation up there. They turn back, a lot of money through the what they call C&D construction and debris. Next project is recreation youth. This is 4 projects there. It's all being funded through CPC monies. There's 4 articles there. The 4th one, I don't know if you read it. I don't know if it was in the Chronicle today. I think it was maybe, but it was in the local news for Harwich. The Mariners have contributed $75,000 to funding of the Lighthouse Field light projects, and that's where. Plus, last year at town's meeting, they approved, I think, $380,000. So that's what the lights are. Wastewater, all the articles that were in this year's capital have been pushed out either to next year or the year after. And you'll see those in the 5-year plan, which is up after this one. Another CPC article, one of the CPC articles was pulled. We'll talk about that when we get to CPC articles. And then the last 3 here are projects from the water department. Retained earnings, for those that don't know, these are from the water department, and the wastewater department, mostly for Mary's education, are what we call enterprise funds, Mary. They bill the people that use their services directly. The water you pay in your house, you don't pay the town directly, you pay the water department. And they, it's a separate little entity on the town's budget. And we'll get into their budget shortly. But they pay for their projects themselves, and that's what retained earnings is right there. And those are all being funded out of their retained earnings account. The last one is, again, 3 more articles for CPC, which have been voted and approved there. So that brings this year's capital budget to $7.5 million, of which there's just 2 debt exclusions that will hit the tax rolls directly through debt exclusions, which is above and beyond Proposition 2.5. They're exempt from 2.5 provisions. And then these are just the breakdown of different funds for road projects. Any questions on the FY22 capital requests? Okay. And moving, okay, let me shorten this screen a little bit here.
Don?
Yes.
The CPC articles, they've already been approved by the committee, recommended by the committee?
Yeah. Well, okay. I have a separate sheet on those.
Yes, you do, yeah.
I have the sheet, but I don't have if they've been approved or not. But I have, since that sheet went out, they have approved them. So I'll tell you which ones have been approved and not approved. This is the capital outlay sheet here. And this is a 5-year plan of capital. It's basically that 1-year plan pushed out for 5 years to give the town some planning ability for future years' expenditures. Myself and Angelo are on this committee. And another thing to bear in mind, which I didn't mention earlier, is this budget season this year has actually been shortened by about 6 months. Usually we meet in May, end the meeting, and then we start getting ready for the next town meeting a year later. This year that didn't happen. We lost 6 months, so to speak. So we're trying to get 6 months of budget talks, discussions, and approvals in a 6-month period. So this particular committee, we haven't really met extensively to fill in the blanks. You can see out the 4 years, there's a lot of blanks, and that's been a concern of mine. I like to see more numbers in there, even if they're numbers that they think they're going to use, is that give us a little better planning opportunities. But needless to say, you can see next year's capital requests and 24's capital requests, and the big numbers here are in, where's wastewater at? Trying to find wastewater, I don't see it. Oh, there we go. It's at the last slide here. The other numbers are I don't want to say normal requests, but they're within reason. You can see these two big numbers down here, FY23, FY24. Two very big numbers, and in 23 is almost $30 million, and you can see why. It's driven by the one right above it, wastewater. That's $7.4 million, and that's the Dennis Yarmouth Harwich portion of a shared treatment plant. We all don't know where that's going right now. I mean, as you folks may or may not be aware of, there's a lot of discussion, so much discussion that Joe Powers, the town administrator, is having weekly meetings with, how did we refer to it, Tuesday night, gang of four, which is a gang of five now. Every week they're meeting on wastewater, trying to sort it out. And they're discussing it every selectmen's meeting, wastewater. There's a recap of what they're doing on it. So there's lots of discussion on that. I haven't anything more to add to that than there's a lot of talk. There's two plans in effect called the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, the CWMP, and then another one, an acronym that just came out of Tuesday, is a local comprehensive plan, LCP, that's going to be revisited, which has been dormant for 10 years, or it's been a plan in effect for 10 years, and now they're going to revisit to see if that's what they actually want to do. A lot of it has to concern with East Harwich on different phases there, different alternatives to sewage. Big subject. Encourage you if you want to learn about that, because that's what's really driving our budgets right now is the wastewater by the debt and the debt payments and interest we have to have on that. I think we've incurred maybe $30 million worth of potential debt with those. Some we paid off, some were been approved, we haven't spent yet. So those are two big numbers, 23, 20, 24. But even 22 is a big number. But bear in mind that $7 million, a lot of it is being paid by CPC, which I think is close to 2.6 million, and then another 2 million through debt exclusions, retained earnings and stuff. So it's still $7 million, is still a big number, but that's the cost of capital projects. And that's something that we'll all be voting on certainly shortly as to where we stand on these things. So I encourage people to ask around. There's a lot of information on the town website for each of these. You can by all means, send me questions and we can put it. That's later on in the agenda topics for future discussion. So we'll get to that. Any questions on the 5-year plan? Okay. I think the next piece of information is what's called, I don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but It's the budget warrant timeline, and let's go down to pertinent where we are. This is just what some of this stuff is driven by charter requirements that we're required by charter to do certain things. The selectmen have to do certain things, capital outlay, the finance committee. So the next big one is February 22nd, which is Monday. So I'm guessing that Monday, when the selectmen take up the operating budget, they'll vote on it at that time. I think that's the normal procedure there, at which point it gets submitted to us, and that's when we take a look at it and then invite people to come in and learn about the budgets, individual items in much more detail. And then following the 22nd comes the 26th, where Board of Selectmen submits articles to the Finance Committee no later than 14 days after deadline for submission. So I know Joe's working on that. And we'll get those warrant articles, which we are required by town charter. Even if they don't have a financial impact to the town, we are required by our town charter to vote on them and give an opinion on what we believe we should be doing as a town. And the selectmen, what you can read here is its other articles. And then this, I think the one in the yellow here, I'm not 100% sure, but this is a meeting that we normally held for some of the veterans on the committee. We had a meeting on a Saturday. It was a luncheon meeting between the Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and then we brought in individual department heads to discuss, their budgets. If we had any questions, not sure if that's going to happen this year. There's talk that it might not, but I am personally in favor of it. I think it's a good way for us to meet the department heads and learn a little bit more about their budgets. But that's up to the selectmen and I believe Joe to figure out that one. But that's what that yellow is there. Next one is this is mostly on the schools and just getting ready for town meeting, things like that. Okay, so that's in your warrant. I mean, in your packet here. Yes, go ahead, Dan. Sorry,
John. This has nothing to do with the budgets, but I just went on to. I have an Apple iPad, and I just realized that I can enlarge that all these schedules by just using my fingers to enlarge it. I didn't realize that. Others might have that same capability.
I can enlarge it at my end too.
But I can, with my two fingers, I can just go on the screen and widen it.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I can enlarge it too, but it's still, I'm looking at it on the TV right here, and it's just horrible. There's no way you can discern what that number is.
Yeah, it might just be the iPad because I have touchscreen capability. Just a comment.
John, basically net, we have about a month to get this thing ready before the warrant has to go to print.
If that's what it says down there somewhere, I thought we had a little bit more than that.
Print on the 30th of March.
30th sends warrants to Cape Cod Chronicle and printer. Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
you're right.
A lot of work to do before that goes out.
Yes, and you're right, Brian. And like I said earlier, this budget season has been condensed in normally a year to 6 months.
Yeah.
So it will be busy coming up here, but I think by getting a lot of this information out to you folks individually, you can look at them and formulate good questions so that when we do meet, we can, focus right in on those questions and have the appropriate people come in. And as we go along, Joe will be coming probably to the meetings more. Carol will be coming to the meetings more. Tonight was just a general overview and just to get people's thoughts on what we should be doing going forward. But you're absolutely right. It really is a relatively short time. Okay. Next budget here on the screen is the wastewater. And as I mentioned before, wastewater and water department are both enterprise funds, meaning that they run, with the town, and the town does provide them services, which the town charges for those services, but they run independent, and they derive their revenues to run their department through their rates that they charge their customers that use those services. Having said that, the wastewater is kind of a hybrid department right now. Even though it's established as an enterprise fund, it's still being subsidized because it's brand new, and obviously it does not have any revenue producing users yet. So the town is subsidizing, if you want to say it that, the town's operating budget, and that operating budget this year is $515,000 versus last year. And you can see one could say it's almost it's almost doubled from last year. And the reason for that is they're just starting to ramp up connections to homes. They hope to go live, and don't quote me on this date or month because it isn't a firm date by any means, but they're hoping to go live, meaning flow, second quarter of 2022 budget. So in the August-September timeframe, they hope to actually have sewer or flow start flowing to Chatham. And once they have flow, then they can start charging customers. But obviously, immediately, they're not going to have, $515,000 worth of sewer charges flowing to Chatham. So that's why it's so large, because they have to ramp up people-wise, personnel-wise, equipment-wise. And I believe they're going to start off subcontracting this out to the town, to the top company that does the same service work for Chatham. So that's why that number is so high, is 515,000. And also Dan Pelletier, who's the superintendent of the water department, part of his time will be budgeted as wastewater superintendent also. And so I don't know what the percentage is, maybe 10-15% of his time, but his time will be paid for whatever the percentage is, will be paid out of this budget. So that's the wastewater, and they're self-sufficient. At some point, wastewater will become self-sufficient, and they will not be relying on town subsidies to make their department work. Any questions on wastewater? And it's if you've been following the Chronicle and some of the selectmen's meetings, it's a big issue, is wastewater and what we're doing and how we're doing it. So I encourage you all to read as much on it as you can. I'm certainly trying to get up to speed on it. But next one is the water department. Again, this is an enterprise fund. It's a standalone department, self-funding through their rates that they charge the people that use the water. And then last summer, which I didn't think it was a particularly hot summer, but I don't know about you folks, but my water bill this year was, I have sprinklers, so that explains why, but I was shocked when I got my fall water bill. And I spoke with Dan, and just in general, he said he was pumping over 1 billion gallons of water a day in September. So that all comes back to him in water rates. So this is his funding, his department. They do a fantastic job there. They're very self-sufficient. I think we've got a very capable leader in Dan Pelletier. And their budget line item is down there. They're actually down about $60,000-$70,000. And that was due, I asked Dan why, and it's because of some personnel, some senior personnel left. Some junior personnel came on board at a lower rate. So that's what that number is right there. And they've got some big capital projects coming up too, but again, their capital is usually funded out of their wastewater retained earnings. Water retained earnings. So that's wastewater. And anybody have a question on water?
No.
Department. Okay, the next one is the schools. As we saw in the operating budget, the town's operating budget per se to run the town is about $26 million. That's the police, the fire, the DPW, and all the town departments, about $26 million. The water department's budget is around what we just saw is about $42 million. I mean, not 42 million, excuse me, $4.2 million. So the next two big budget drivers are the schools. There's two schools in town, as we all know. Monomoy Regional, which is the regional school system with Chatham, and their budget is let me get their budget. Monomoy School budget. Here we go. You can read through all this stuff. We'll definitely have Dr. Carpenter come in and talk to us, or maybe you have a new business manager this year, Michael Macmillan, who's doing a tremendous job. I've talked to him a couple times. He's very, very thorough, very, very sharing of information. And so you can go through this budget, and you can understand where their money's coming from, how they're spending their money. And, I just can't imagine how challenging it must be just to run a department, school in a normal situation, but under COVID, where you've got, children coming in, children going out, work at home, working in, they're making it work. So at the end of the day, and this is, all their information, and it's pretty straightforward. Takes a little while to learn about some of the terminology they use. But this is an interesting chart here. This chart gives you the breakout, and I'll just touch on it a little bit of the schools. It doesn't give us past years, but it gives our current enrollment on schools. And when you total up these numbers, about 1,743 students are in the municipal, the regional school system. There's one high school, there's one middle school, and there's two elementary schools. And that's what's, we'll get to the real important slides at the end here. I'll talk about that. And this is, just money. Well, they have a good couple pages this year was funded budgeted priorities. These priority budget ones are money that's carried in the budget, which is this top slide up here. This is where I get to use my little dot. There we go. All these priorities listed here are all carried right here. And these numbers are what they're anticipating to fund in this year's budget. Okay, well, I guess when I use my dot, I can't scroll the page. Okay, the second one is unfunded priorities. These are priorities that the school system has identified that are not currently funded in their budget. And the numbers for those are up in this column here. The only number that I see here, which I think should be at the top of the funded priorities, it's because that's my background is security, physical security. They have a line item in here of $12,000, which seems kind of low to me, but it's a $12,000 line item. And if you look down in the explanation of those cameras, it says, current systems are out of date or at Monomoy Regional Middle School are not functioning. And I would think that's a tremendous liability on the school department. So I would anticipate some of these things to be shifted around as things go. Go down through here, the budgets. This is how they budgeted some of their stuff. And I didn't understand these charts, and I spoke to Michael 2 days ago, and he's got these charts mixed up. But So he's since corrected them. This is where some of their monies go. I mean, in charter level school choice, that's Monomoy actually does pretty good in school choice. They take more money in than they have going out. School choice for those is you have a choice in Harwich or Chatham, grades K through 12. If you want to send your child elsewhere on the Cape to school, you can do that. And a lot of parents elect to do that. But in Harwich Chatham, there's more monies coming in than going out. Charter tuition is the same thing. This is what if a child is parents want to send their child to a charter school, the town has to pay for that child, and that's what the town pays is $1.2 million for that child to go to a charter school of their choice. Out of district tuition, and they're all expelled out here as to what those are. Out of district is special needs children. These are children that cannot be, or students that cannot be taught in Harwich or Chatham, so we have to physically send them out of district. And usually these are very children with very special needs that the staff at Monomoy does not have the capability of doing that, and that totals to 1.4 million. Now we do get reimbursements from here, and you can read that in there. So we do get some reimbursement, but we don't get it all. Construction debt, this is basically the Monomoy Regional High School, is what the debt principal and interest is. Health insurance is what we obviously pay for health insurance for the staff. And again, that's all spelled out here. What's this next slide? Is the capital budget thing. You know, the town needs, or the school system needs updates for, you can read there, this is window repairs, vehicle repairs, technology. Most of the technologies expenditures is on laptops, as one would assume. And then most of those are leases. They don't really own them, they lease them, but that's what the total is for capital budgets. Budget revenue, this is where, again, even when you see this in person, you have a hard time seeing. But this is where the revenue comes from here. This is where the monies come in from schools. Circuit breaker is the formula that the state reimburses us for special education. It's a very complicated formula. I do not know what it is, but we don't get near the amount of money that we spend on special ed. And this is the draft budget right here. And this is the breakdown of that, the total budget. Now this is the total, 41 million is the total budget for both school systems. Then if we go further down, the assessments, how it's broken out. And kind of hard to see it there. I'll go to the three chapter. Yeah, what is chapter? Chapter funding this is kind of like the analogy of, you don't ask how sausage is made. This is one of these things, chapter funding, and how they figure out. This is all based on, as it spells out here, it's the number of students enrolled by each town, the demographics of each town, the tax rate of each town, the assessed values of the town, the different programs that are offered in the school system. And the state figures this out, and the state gives us money, and that's what they gave us last year. It was $3,850,000. Excess and deficiencies, that's the state's, the school system's kind of like their free cash. account at, at the end of the year when they do all their reconciliation, they see what money is left over, and it has to be certified, I guess, by the state, and then it goes into their excess and deficiencies, and then it's used to offset next year's budget. Charter school reimbursement. This is very negligible. We saw in an earlier slide, we spent 1.2 million, and we get back 100,000. So it's regional transportation. The school do get reimbursement from the state on this. Medicare, Medicaid is some there. Interest on accounts. Minimum. This is another one of those tough questions to have explained to you. Minimum contribution is, again, what the state says, okay, Harwich, based on the demographics of your town, the wealth of your town, this is what you should be paying for each year to educate, to give your child an adequate education, and that they do the same thing to Chatham. And that varies between the two towns. And surprisingly, to me, it was surprised, because I always thought Chatham was more of a wealthier town than Harwich. But Harwich's minimum contribution is higher than Chatham, so it's not solely based on the cost of housing. Again, this is the draft budget. Again, this budget has not been voted on yet. It's being voted on March 11th. It's their school budget. And so once that budget is voted on, these offsets are monies that come in through state aid. The excess and deficiency, again, is that free cash, charter school money. So this is money that's applied to that $41 million. And then once that money is applied, they figure out, okay, what's the minimum contribution for Harwich, minimum contribution for Chatham. And then these numbers here is what, that $13 million is what the state says, okay, to educate all your children, Harwich, this is what you need to give them a proper education. And then Chatham's number is, this is right, a little pen here again. This number here is Chatham's minimum contribution. But we all know, we all, I think, share that we do a great education for our town. And we have agreed to, as taxpayers of the town, that we agree with the state on the 13 million, but we want to do a better job, and we're willing to pay more for a better education. And this is what Harwich is saying they were willing to pay more, is $12 million more. And this is what Chatham is willing to pay. And then the cost of transporting those students, the capital, the debt that's based on, again, I gotta get rid of my thing here. Okay, I thought they had a percentage in here of what, but it's roughly Chatham's, Harwich's percent of the total of 41 million, 75% of that number there is this number here. And this is 25% of the number is Chatham's number right there. And that's what, if you looked at the number on Joe's recap sheet, you'll see that number of $27,000, $27 million there. And okay. Oh, excuse me. Oh, okay, I take that back. Okay, you'll see on this sheet here, there's $27,667,863. This is the assessment that Monomoy is asking the town to pay. This is lower, that's very important, this is lower than what's on Joe's recap sheet. Joe's recap sheet, you have to go back and take a look at it, but it's $157,000 more. And this has just been, publicized by the school system, like last week. Last week it was meeting. So Joe hasn't had a chance to adjust his number. And again, this number isn't final yet. We'll know when the final numbers on March 11th. So the big discussion right now is, as everyone's been talking about, is what they call this alternate assessment method. And I'm not going to get into it because I'll trip all over myself explaining it. But it's a new way for the for the Monomoy school system to reassess the two towns. Because Chatham is sending their elementary children to their elementary schools, and the Harwich is sending theirs to their elementary schools. And read the article that's in the Chronicle today. It will do a much better job of explaining what this is all about. So the school committee is asking both towns to reconsider their assessments and how it's done. And this is what they've come up as a starting point for a recommendation. It saves Harwich about $500,000 this way, but it puts that $500,000 back onto Chatham, because if you look at, I hate to keep moving through these things, but I guess it's step 2. Step 3. You can see that $500,000 shift. It's $850 here, and it's $340 here. So it shifts from Harwich to Chatham. They're asking them to pay more, and we pay less. And this is how they came up with that. I don't know. I think they took the strict operating cost of each school and figured it out. But again, read the article in the Chronicle. There's been much more discussion on this. I did attend the meeting with the Harwich Selectmen, the Chatham Selectmen, and the Harwich Selectmen and the school board. And the Harwich Selectmen were all in favor of this, of course. And it's just my impression that it seemed like majority of the school committee members were in favor of it. And the Chatham Select Board, maybe 1 or 2 were kind of leaning towards it being in favor. 3 didn't seem to agree with this. That they're saying that, we have an agreement with Harwich that we did 10 years ago, and we're going to stick to that agreement. But we'll see how it plays out. I have no idea. All we'll be asked to do is vote when the time comes on a budget. There is some discussion, and again, read the Chronicle. You'll see the selectmen's opinions there on how this should be paid. When school regionalization started over 10 years ago, I was not in town. I did know about it because I had a second home at the time, but I was aware of it. And it started off with Harwich saving money, but after 3 years, it stopped saving money. And it started costing us more. And Chatham's has either stayed level or gone down. And we'll see more of this. We'll hear more numbers in the future. So that's the Monomoy school budget right there. Harwich's portion right now that we're going to be asked to vote on is this number of 27 million. That's all that we're concerned with. Chatham will vote on this number, but there is concern that in town that it's too high. And again, more news as it happens on this. I don't know if anyone else has any more comment they can add to this and maybe followed a little closer than I have. Feel free to speak up. Okay. The next budget is the regional tech school budget. And, well, let me turn these stuff around here. Okay. Okay. This is the tech school budget. I apologize. I thought I had incorporated up their PowerPoint slide in this budget, but I didn't. But this is the detail of their budget. But I'll talk through their budget here. The tech school, as we all know, and some of us visited it the other couple weeks ago. Beautiful school, beautiful, beautiful. Best money you can buy, as they say. And it works pretty much how the regional school system. This is the regional tech school, and it's made up of what is it? 1, 2, 3. Made up of 13 towns. And like the Chatham Harwich, each town is assessed based on the number of students that it sends to the school. That one slide on minimum contributions is figured into it. And the number at the end of the day is produced of what the assessment is. And on Joe's recap sheet, tech school number was $1,688,000. That number too has gone down about $150,000. They're voting, the tech school is voting on their budget the 25th. When I get an approved budget for them, I'll send it out. Our budget actually went down at the tech school close to 3%. And the reason ours went down 3% was directly attributable to students not going there. I think we lost 7 students going there. So that's why the tuition went down. Assessment for tech school went down. So that's the tech school budget. Any questions on the tech school budget? Okay. The last bit we have tonight is the Community Preservation Committee. This is a committee that's in town that gets petitions from either town departments, private citizens, or private citizens through town departments. They come before this board and request money for different projects. You can read what they are here, but I encourage you to go to their website, Community Preservation Committee website, which is an excellent website. Lots of information. On the left-hand column, you can get the actual application for this particular article. Like the first one is here is HP1. It's restoration and conservation of some gravestones out of the Methodist Church in East Harwich. It'll give you the complete request there, what they want to do for $112,000, and then the Conservation Preservation Commission, CPC, has these folks come in, tell them why they need it, how it's going to be spent, and then the committee deliberates and either approves or disapproves. And this money that comes out of their out of the 3% tax that's levied against everybody's personal property taxes. And they have basically 4 buckets of money, I believe, Dan. Historical preservation, open space, recreation,
community housing,
and housing.
Yep.
And then each bucket has monies into it. If there's sufficient monies in that bucket, it can be funded. If it's if the committee deems it worthy to be funded. We can go through these. I have sat in on a couple presentations, and I can quickly go through. If people want to make it, if you've printed it out, make a note what's passed or not passed. The first one, it's grave site restoration, that did pass. The historical number 2 did not pass. There wasn't enough money in historical preservation to pass that one, so that did not pass. It might be easier for me to tell you which ones didn't pass, and just give you the exceptions and then go through each one. But anyway, 2, I'll just run through that they passed, didn't pass. 2 did not pass. 3 passed. Number 4 passed. 5 passed. 5, instead of, they were looking for 2 years of resources for $15,000. It only passed for 1 year, $7,500. The Veterans Home in Dennis, they requested $25,000. They only received $15,000 from the CPC. 7 passed, 8 passed, 9 passed, 10 passed, 11 passed. Oh, excuse me, 10 was the hydration statements. That was withdrawn by the petitioner. Bike passed, crossing lights, number 11 passed, 12 passed, 13 passed, 14 passed, 15 passed, and 16 was withdrawn. They redesigned. They originally wanted 100,000 additional monies on top of the 380 that they had passed at last year's town meeting. But through negotiations and value engineering, they did not need that $100,000. And the Mariners did kick in $75,000 themselves to get this project going. And it was a very fast-tracked project. As we all know, one of my peeves is warrant articles get approved but never acted on. This one was approved at town meeting last year. Funding came in way over budget. They quickly re-engineered, looked at things, talked with the Mariners, and approved. The selectmen approved the expenditure from the approved capital of the CPC fund. So they issued the contract to purchase the lights. Fastest time I've ever seen a project executed, but it's been executed. I think trying to get them online by the season. I think their season starts June 1st, so they got a very aggressive schedule. What I can do on this preservation things, I did look at their website, but I didn't have enough time to get it posted to the agenda. I'll send out an approved CPC funding list, so you'll have it all.
John, question?
Any questions on the CPC?
John?
Yeah.
CH6, Veterans Home in Dennis project. Do you know what the background is on that?
I do. That's a brand new house that was built, and if you go, what's the street? Exit 9. Is that 134? Exit 9. Okay, if you go on 134 towards, go north on that towards the Seward Harbor. A veterans group has built a brand new house there, and it's got 6 apartments in it, and it's for vets that are looking for a place to stay, a place to get themselves organized. I don't think I don't think it's meant for long-term housing. It's kind of a, you know, a place where they can go and get organized for a period of time. And they went around, the veterans group, the applicant right there at Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center came to the town asking for a contribution to that. And the town listened to them, and they decided 15,000.
Why is Harwich investing money in a dentist property?
That's a good question, Dan. When I would listen in to the presentation, they were not taking questions from the audience.
Yeah.
And no one on the committee asked that question. I have since asked Dave Nixon, the chairman, and I forget what his answer was to me, but I did ask that. So, but that's a question we can, I didn't ask him to, but we can revisit that question.
Okay.
And to that point also, Dan, up on the first two articles, HP1, HP2, it's similar but different to what your question you just said. You know, why are we giving money to an out-of-town entity? Maybe you know better. You were on the committee. I don't know if we must be allowed to do it. I mean, Dave is a very stickler for rules and regs, so apparently we're allowed to do that. But on this,
You're talking about the Harwich Methodist Cemetery?
yeah, no, but no, I was talking about the veterans. Your initial question of why? Yeah, I guess we're allowed to do that. You know.
I don't know.
I'll find out that question. But what 1 and 2 here, it's like I say, it's a similar question. These two articles for requests for funds, they're for the East Harwich Methodist Church Cemetery, but the town does not own these cemeteries. These are private cemeteries.
Yeah.
And that's a question that, again, I heard the discussion, but I wasn't able to ask questions. So we can bring in Robin, or we can bring in, ask Dave Nixon to come in before us and tell us.
I seem to recall that, and this was another town, where they had a similar situation where the church approached, I forget what town it is, their community preservation committee to fund renovation of their stained glass windows or something like that. And there was an issue there of separation of church and state, you know, public funding not going to a religious, and I think that went to court, and the court said it was okay. But don't quote me on that.
Okay, but I think I think it's a decision that the town's people make a town meeting. I think is the real decision, because I think the church that's in the center of Harwich, Chatham, by the Rotary there, by Cumberland Farms, I think CPC funds were used for the big renovation there. So, but that's a question we can ask.
Oh, the meeting house? The meeting house?
No, this is in Chatham.
Oh, okay.
Not South Chatham. No, this is the Chatham Church. So it must be allowed. So we can find that out. So that brings us to the end of the documentation for the budgets. I guess the question I have here now for folks and is, you know, and to Brian's point here, we've got a short window of, you know, 6 weeks or so to bring people in. Who do we want to bring in? I guess it's
So I thought last year, John, last year that the meeting that we held with the selectmen was a very useful meeting. We got a good book that provided everyone's case for support. We were able to listen to each one of them and have a conversation, and I thought it was really useful and enlightening. I would hope that they'll be able to make that happen either through Zoom or in a live basis like we did last year. I thought it was a really good process. And beyond that, I think we need to set up a schedule as soon as possible, because there's going to be a pace of meetings we need to meet.
I agree, Brian, yeah. And it's just yeah, we need to do that.
So theoretically, the next meeting, it almost seems like would be the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. I think we need to find out whether or not that meeting is going to take place. Because that's the meeting with the Board of Selectmen would be really useful.
Okay. Well, why don't, I agree 100%. Let me send a note to Joe on and letting them know if we can take an informal poll here of, I think people will agree on that especially the veterans in the group would find that meeting very helpful for folks to do that. At that point, because they usually bring in the bigger departments, Brian, the police, the fire, the DPW.
Yeah, they all came in last year. I thought it was really great. We had the Council on Aging. We had everybody come in, and they made their pitch and they made their case, and it helped us get an overview of the entire need of the community. I thought it was good.
Okay. Well, I'll do that. I'll send Joe a note asking him if it's all possible to have that meeting again, because it would tremendously help to do that.
The council, I think the calendar for us as a committee is very pressing right now. We need to nail down a calendar.
We do. Yes. And why don't I come up with something and get it out to people? Let me talk with Joe and let me talk with Joe and see what we can come up with, Ryan. Okay. Offhand, I just can't think of a schedule right now. Especially what makes it also difficult is we don't have any approved budgets to discuss.
Right, but we should have those Monday by statute. They've got to get them to us. So then we're going to get approved budgets, and we're going to need to move on them.
Yeah.
And I would think it would be very beneficial to have that joint meeting and then really go to work, because we have about a month before it's got to go to print.
Right. And we may have to do what we did last year, maybe meet twice a week or something like that. But I think we have a lot of good information to act upon, and we just got to hear the department's heads rationale for it.
Yeah, we do, but I think to Brian's point, John, if we have the departmental level budgets, that'll make those sessions a lot more meaningful.
Yeah, I also felt it helped us move right through the questions last year because we had that good background and we had the book that provided us with everyone's case for support. We were really able to move through the questions. Yeah. Very few items hung us up.
Yeah. And okay, I'll find out where the booklet is too. There's some question on that, whether or not they're going to do the booklet again this year, but my thoughts on that is they've got to. I mean, it's 120 pages of, no one's printer is that big, so we've got to get that town to do that for us. Okay, well, let me talk with Joe and get back to folks on some type of tentative schedule. Because that was actually the next item, Brian, on new business was schedule of next meetings. And,
oh yeah, I know.
And I don't have a good answer for you right now. I mean, it's hard to discuss a school budget when you don't know what the budget is, and and we have no approved budgets at all. So anyway, let me find out. And I'll get back to folks within the next few days, because I agree we've got a short time to make some decisions, very important decisions here. Okay, if no one has any new questions on new business, we can move on to old business. Old business is just a couple things. I think everybody got something from Patty today, right? On the conflict. Yes. Some folks have sent them in. Some folks, if you can get that online training course completed as soon as possible, and either send me digitally a copy of your certificate, or you can send it right to Anita Dorset, the town clerk, and she'll take care of it. So I'm guessing that everybody received the training and to do that and take care of it. Okay, thoughts on engaging? Because one thing we did talk about last year is, how can we get people engaged, town citizens engaged in this process here? And if anyone has any particular thoughts, I'd like to share them with the group now. One thought I had was Chris Joyce. Some folks may know Chris Joyce in the town. She runs a group. I think it's the League of Women Voters. I'm not 100% sure if that's the official title, but she tries to meet and get meetings out there to engage the public. If anyone else has any ideas, I'm open to suggestions.
Well, John, when you say engage the public, what do you mean by that?
How can we, get our word out? I mean, we have a meeting tonight. There isn't one person from the town. Now, there may be people listening on TV, which the town has no way of knowing that. And I do know people do listen, and I know people do review this at their leisure. But a way of having some type of forums or something like that we can invite the public to.
I think, John, one of the things that's going to be the most advantageous, when we get the draft warrant, we're going to be able to make it clear to people what we're going to be discussing in our meetings. And that was very effective in getting audience participation in our meetings last year as we were building our way through the warrant. I think that'll probably be the same again this year. And we'll use the website and the communications tools that you've been able to arrange for us to share that with the town. But the age of COVID makes everything so much more difficult. I think right now our goal is to make sure that people are aware of where the warrant is and where we are in the warrant. And if they have points they want to discuss, that's their opportunity to come forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, when you say engage the public, do you mean to engage the public in terms of who we are and what we do, or engage the public in terms of the town's budget and the warrants, et cetera?
Yeah, I did. I'd both. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some, townspeople on the call right now asking us a question of why this, why that. And,
we know we had them last year once we got into the warrant. I think we'll probably find that to be the case again this year. Right now, without an approved budget, it's so amorphous that I don't think anybody's ready to jump into the pool yet. But I think that will change once they approve the budget and we start focusing on warrant articles.
Okay. Well, and it is difficult. I mean, in past years, I've been able to walk up to town hall, go into town hall, and talk to people. I can't do that anymore.
No.
I got to send them a question, and it's, that's not, in my opinion, how business should be conducted. But that's the age we live in right now. So, okay. Like I say, I think the meeting with the selectmen and us and the town department heads, it would be definitely a good thing to have. And, and I'll get Joe.
That too.
Yeah, I would urge them to do that meeting, whether we do it virtually or we do it in person. That was a really beneficial experience. That was probably my first official experience on the committee last year, and I got a ton out of it.
Yeah, I would definitely say, Brian, that would have to be virtually. I don't see how it could be anyway or anything like that.
I just want to have that opportunity. I think it was good for the department heads and good for all of us. It was just a win-win.
Okay. Well, let me get with Joe, and then maybe on Monday's call. Monday's the selectmen meeting's Monday. Either Joe can mention my desire to do that, or I can at the beginning of the public comment. I'll get with Larry. I'll talk with Larry too, and let him know my thoughts that we should do it.
And there's already a date on hold on the calendar, right? It's listed for Saturday, the 27th, which is a week away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time it's brought up, Mary, in the selectmen's meeting, nothing's decided. It's the selectmen that have to decide. It's not up to us. And
They've got to give the directive out to the department heads. Last year, we got a very comprehensive package, Mary. It was really, really good. And then everybody came in loaded for bear. They were concentrated and very informative. It was just a really useful experience.
So I'll make some calls tomorrow and I'll get back with folks on that. And I think the sentiment amongst us is that it's a very useful exercise. So that
Standing camera, Dan.
What did you expect?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a good view.
Watching a movie.
I was just checking out the characters. Oh, Lord.
okay.
Do you want to
I-
make a motion to adjourn?
Pardon? Yeah, well, I hope it was informative for you. It's unfortunately, it's the way we have to conduct business now, Mary. Before, it was a much more, personable thing being in person, of course. But hey, it is what it is. So, yes, if there's no other comment or discussion, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second that, or did you second?
I second.
Okay. Okay, motion's been adjourned. Any comment? I'd like to do a roll call vote. Roll call vote to adjourn. Dan?
Aye.
Mary?
Hi.
Ryan? Al? Dale?
Aye.
Angelo?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And I too. That's 7 to 9. I guess we lost Tom somewhere along the way. So, okay. Well, thank you all, and I'll get back to you. And any other questions? And please send me an email.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
So long.